the man who is a Emmy Award-nominated host, again, for College Game Day on ESPN, and who will be hosting the ABC coverage of the NFL Draft this week. Rece Davis of ESPN. Great to see you, brother.
Great to see you, too, my friend.
It has been a real long time since you and I have seen each other. Obviously, you've called into the show, but it's been a long time.
It has been a while. I think we saw each other briefly at the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago.
Because you were kind enough to try and get my kids down to the set, and it just did not work because it was – well, there's 100-some-odd thousand people there.
There are a lot of people
there. But
there.
you were so cool about that.
But, you know, the thing is, our friendship goes back so far that certainly excited about hosting the draft coverage on ABC. And forgive me, is it tomorrow, maybe Thursday afternoon, when you, Trey, and I are going to be on together. And I was looking at that, and someone said, is that okay? And I'm like, I'm on with Eisen. Yeah, that'd be great.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
3 o'clock local time here, I guess 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock Eastern. Just before the pick. Yeah. That's going to be great. I want to talk about that in a minute, but it's just been a long time since I've literally seen you, and it's a pleasure. That's why I saw you sitting out there. I'm like, come on in. You're a broadcaster of the first quality. Let's just hang out and have a news update brought to you by Honda. Chris Brockman, go ahead and hit it.
Let's do it.
And now,
Brockman with a special live report.
Brockman with the news.
Yes, and it's brought to you by my friends at the Honda Dream Garage Spring Event, where a great deal is available on the Honda of your dreams waiting for you. Whether you need versatility or you want to drive with the latest and greatest tech, there's a Honda that is right for you. So head into your local Honda dealer today. What do you have over there,
Yeah, guys,
Chris?
we've got our first trade of NFL Draft Week. The Seahawks send franchise defensive end Frank Clark to the Kansas City Chiefs for a 2019 first-round pick. That gives Seattle 2 first-round picks in this year's draft and a 2020 second-round pick in exchange of third-round picks this year. According to Adam Schefter, Frank Clark and the Chiefs will now finalize their long-term contract.
That's it right there. Frank Clark from the University of Michigan back in the day.
And I think a great pickup for them because you're not getting – you might get a player who is as productive eventually, but you're not getting anybody proven like that at the spot where the Chiefs were. I think it's a great trade.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great deep pass rush draft for sure. But you're not getting one of those top flight guys down there at 29. And we were talking about the end of the last hour. I mean, you take a look at how you build NFL teams right now, and what you try to do, if you can, is win in the first contract of your stud quarterback who has either burst on the scene unbeknownst to what you were hoping for, or like Mahomes or even Brady back in the day. But now, if you can win right now in Mahomes' years before he makes $40 million annually, you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
And it makes sense to just go out and build your team right now. And Patrick Peterson is saying all sorts of fascinating stuffs on Instagram.
It's hard to keep up. He's cryptically Instagramming out that snakes in the grass, and which would lead you to believe that he's on his way out of Arizona. But then other people in our business are saying there's nothing there, that he is staying put with the Cardinals.
I don't know. Why would he be Instagramming snakes in the grass?
I don't know.
Instagramming photographs of guys who have left the team.
Who are no longer on the Cardinals.
Right.
Tyrann Mathieu, among others.
Do you remember a time, Rece, when we did not glean or look into things in people's Instagram feeds and Twitter feeds?
Yeah, very much so. No. You look at it and everybody reacts to Twitter and we go, oh, my God, Twitter's reacting. We got to do something.
I know. Yeah. I know, which is probably why at the collegiate level, where you do much of your bread and butter, all these coaches tell kids, you're not on it. We're just not letting you on it anymore.
A lot of them do, and they're much more circumspect. But I think that's because there are repercussions for them if they tweet or Insta something there, and you can't do that in the pros. You know, it's a different deal. It's a rare thing that a guy in college, and if he does, people screen capture it, and then he's taking it down, and then, the SID comes out and says, well, he didn't really mean that, and that
I
kind
know.
of stuff.
Well, we just saw a guy who's made it to the Oakland Raiders and has the richest contract for a wide receiver annually in the National Football League using Instagram and Facebook and Twitter to get out. We just had his cousin right here in studio. I don't know if you cross paths with Marquise Brown.
I did not see him this time. I've obviously dealt with him a lot.
He's got a quick first step, as you know.
Yes, he does. It's hard to stay in front of him. So he got
I really liked him.
As a player, as a young man,
Both.
He's a terrific young man for sure, and I like him as a player just because the way the game is going with his speed on the outside. He's got unbelievable speed. His story, which is just remarkable. He was operating rides at Six Flags because nobody wanted him out of high school. Went across the country, paid his way for JUCO, and now here he is, and he's going to get a chance in the NFL.
Yeah, Six Flags.
Yeah,
Six Flags. Otherwise known as an Ed Hockley first quarter. I'm sorry.
Ed's been retired for 2 years.
Well, I mean, fortunately for the NFL, I mean, what other everybody's retiring and going into booths right now.
There's a lot of new officials.
I know.
Well, maybe Doug Marrone should have used Instagram to get in touch with Jalen Ramsey. Did you hear about this story?
Excellent segue, by the way.
Thank you, sir. I've learned from the best. So, of course, we heard about Jalen Ramsey not showing up to Jaguars volunteer workouts. Doug Marrone did get a hold of him. Didn't have his phone number, so he didn't get back to him right away. He texted the wrong phone number for Jalen Ramsey. Did finally talk to him, said they had a great talk. He's training here in Nashville. Jalen Ramsey is with his brother, spending time with his family. He's going to come back in the best shape he's ever been. He's all fired up, so it sounds like it's all hunky-dory in Jacksonville.
Hold on a second. Doug Marrone didn't have the right phone number
Doug
for Jalen
Marrone texted the wrong phone number for Jalen Ramsey.
So does that mean there's somebody with whatever area code phone number that he has that just looks down at their phone like saying, who the hell is Coach Marrone and why is he bitching at me about not being at work?
Telling me to get back to the facilities.
Who did new phone? Who dis? Somebody send that back to Doug Marrone?
Doug said, quote, I couldn't figure out what was going on.
What? Yeah. Nor could the person who received the text.
What if the person who received the text had been a big fan and decided just to stir up a bunch of trouble with it? That would have been great.
That's right. Screw you, Coach.
Yeah. I'm out of here. Trade me now. I'm not showing up.
I want to go to the Browns. Mr. Big might call me Mr. Big Chest.
That would have been awesome.
Oh, man. You know, and Coughlin, too. Did you see Coughlin was asked about this, and he's like, I'm not commenting on it anymore. And that's, again, it's interesting because Coughlin is from a different era, as we all know, and I said he should be in the Hall of Fame for everything that he's done for the Giants and obviously the Jaguars as well. If the Jaguars get to the Super Bowl and he gets back to the Super Bowl with them, then right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably already. I agree with you.
Right, with the 2 rings with the Giants and then what he's done. And then if you want to talk about the total of football as well, Boston College, I mean, we could talk about all of it. But he does have a mentality that's a little bit out of date when we're talking about off-season workout programs. Like, this is why the NFL Players Association says we need time built in where you cannot touch us and you cannot require us to be there. And to say what he said, I think, created a little bit more of a stir with Jalen Ramsey when you think about it.
It's a different time, and I think coaches or former coaches who are in the front office now have to accept that players are in better shape now. This is not the old days where you bring them in to get them in shape. They're already in shape.
Right.
They're in unbelievable condition year-round all the time, and you have to trust them a little bit. They've got the ultimate trump card. You can you can cut them, you can release them. It's different than baseball. So guys are motivated to stay in shape, and they do, for the most part.
Yeah, I know. But I just cannot believe the coach of the Jaguars.
He had the wrong phone number.
Yeah, that's great. That's
pretty
great.
Great. Hey, did you see what Odell
not
Beckham?
Great, hilarious.
Yeah. Not great for Doug.
That's correct.
Not great for Doug. Great for us.
Right.
Did you see Odell last night on Twitter, guys?
No,
did you hear about this?
I just saw 1 or 2 of his tweets, and I'm like,
all right. So
can I be honest with you? I read through a few and got bored. Is that bad? I was like, yeah, okay, He was shooting back at everybody.
Odell just had fun kind of firing back at people who are accusing him of being a cancer in the Giants locker room, questioning why he didn't travel with the team when he was injured. And so Odell just kind of fired back a couple of the replies. Ask any one of my teammates who I was a teammate and a man and a person. Yes, I'm a cancer to a place that's okay with losing because I want to win that bad. You're absolutely correct. So kind of a little sarcasm back at this guy. Also, we didn't sign him to trade him. He put in quotes, "You don't get married to get a divorce. I tried my best. The situation I had been in since I got there never changed."
You don't get. By the way, we should set this to country music. That sounds like a. Doesn't that sound like a country song? I didn't get married to get divorced.
We're in the right place for it.
We should set the.
You've got a great staff here. They could do that.
We should set the. Mike, doesn't that sound like a country music lyric?
Come on. I mean, that's
cowboy
every country song.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Tim McGraw's coming in on Thursday. Should we have him perform Odell's?
Bringing a little guitar in.
Odell's tweet replies?
That sounds like a music lyric. I didn't get married to get divorced.
Yeah, that's like the
and now he's done left me and hanging around with Baker Mayfield.
and the song is called I Proposed to a Kicking Net. See, we're workshopping here. Rece Davis, Chris, me and you, all of us, we're workshopping.
We're making it happen. We're making it happen. So anyway, Odell had fun last
But I didn't get married to get divorced is sort of the I guess companion to Dave Gettleman at the Combine.
Right.
We didn't sign him to trade him.
Right.
I didn't get married to get divorced. We didn't sign him to get. I mean, this is like a Slim Whitman's greatest hits music commercial we got right here. You could just see the title scrolling through your screen right here. Yeah, I could understand why you read through that thread and you're like, okay.
Yeah, after a little while, I was like, got it.
That said, though, I think the worldwide leader has several Cleveland Brown games in the first month of the season. The 2 Monday nighters in the first 5 weeks, I think.
Yeah, Cleveland. I think so. They're going to be a hot team. They're going to be a team that's drawing attention. I mean, Baker Mayfield has that charisma. I was all on board with them taking him number one. I understood the limitations, much like Kyler Murray. But Baker's got a certain it factor. Guys are drawn to him, and I think they're going to be very successful. And obviously, upgrading the roster with Odell and some of the other moves they've made, they're going to be good.
Look, and we're going to talk Kyler Murray in the next segment with you, but Baker had me at hello when he planted that flag in Columbus, Ohio. You know what I mean? And so for a team that wants to change the culture, I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
I was actually standing on the sideline when he did that, I was like, he's going, oh my!
I
watched him do it. Yeah,
but you watched him sort of part the scene.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking, is he really going to do this? But I mean, I thought it was. I don't have a problem with that kind of stuff, and maybe I'm an old guy, but maybe I've evolved a little bit. The celebrations, there are certain things that can be disrespectful, certainly in a pregame, and I know a lot of people did have a problem with it, but to me, he didn't like that, even though it's a tradition. He didn't like that they sang their song, the Buckeyes, the previous year when they wore them out on their field. So he answered with his, and that's okay. That's part of it,
And just the fact that there are probably so many Browns Buckeye fans who hated him and then suddenly loved him. Yeah, exactly. That was one of my favorite draft moments that I was fortunate to be in the chair for, was when the Browns drafted Jabril Peppers. And they took the shot of the Browns party of the fans, and they were all high-fiving each other. And I'm like, where have you been the last 2 years? It just makes strange bedfellows, man.
Would you be mad at me if I said they weren't too mad at Jabril because he didn't beat them, So I mean,
well, I think a quarter of their defensive staff they just took from Michigan now.
Yeah, they did. And some of the guys,
Greg Madison.
Well, that's one of the things that we've sort of filed away for next season, not speaking to him, trade or all of that kind of stuff, while still giving Madison props because they appreciate how he helped them develop. But it's
strange bedfellows.
It is strange.
All right, you have one more item?
Yeah, a couple more things. By the way, this is very fast. So the Chiefs have agreed to terms with Frank Clark already. 5-year deal, $105 million.
That's like Tank Lawrence.
63.5 guaranteed.
I'm telling you, they're going for it right now. And if they can get Patrick Peterson, I don't care how many draft choices it costs them. Just do it now. Mm-hmm. You got that offense. They're remarkable. They're only going to get better because they're so young. You can supplement it with third, fourth, fifth-round picks. Mahomes has 2 more years before they're going to have to pick up that 5th-year option, which is, a chunk of change, not like what he's about to make. Go for it right now. That's how you win in the NFL. Do it.
You know much more about the NFL than I do, but I think it's the biggest fallacy in pro sports right now is building for the future. It's a different era. When you have an opportunity, you better take it.
Damn straight.
The Sixers in the NBA, they're almost an exception to the rule because all these teams that try to, hoard all these draft picks, it doesn't work out most of the time.
Right.
And I'm all in with what the Chiefs are doing.
The NFL is the sport where you can go from 4-12 to 12-4 in a season.
Well, I think just to bring it all full circle here, and then we'll take a break and come back with Rece, is that the Browns, though, have cashed in on the draft choices that the previous administration left for him.
Yeah, that's true.
But they went ahead and got an old hand in John Dorsey to cash those picks into human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Like took the steering wheel away from the people who were moneyballing their way into what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. And
that they're actually going ahead and turning them into real human beings that can play football, which is exciting. And it's so great to see you, man, Rece Davis. And so I'm going to have a fun conversation with you. I can't wait to have a talk with you about, what your career has become and what we used to do together, and how, in a way, hopefully, I'd love for that segment to be more than that 6-minute or something like that. On
sure.
Well, I mean, you got to talk to them and say we got to.
You take over the show.
Well, I mean, you're going to have 3 hosts together. We're all used to having our hands on the steering wheel. I don't know how the hell it's going to go down. It's going to take a few minutes for us to figure it out.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. You got 3 control freaks with microphones. I mean, me, you, and Ringo. Yeah. It's like, who's going to ask a question of each other? Yeah, but at any rate, it'll be a lot of fun. We'll chat with more with Rece Davis when we come back here live before he anchors the ABC coverage of the draft from Nashville here in a moment.
Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show.
Okay, welcome back to our show, and in studio with me here with me right to my right is the host of College Game Day and a longtime friend, I would say. I know that when I left ESPN, a lot of people grow apart because you don't work together a lot, but Rece Davis, I always consider you true blue. You're a good man, and I'm pleased to have you here on the show. Thank you for joining.
Always glad to be here.
So, Chris, I don't know if I ever told you this story.
Okay.
As you know, I'm a 26-year-old man,
yes,
hired by ESPN out of Redding, California. Just showed up, and my head was spinning. And also, I was a single man. I hadn't met Susie yet, my wife, and I was invited over to someone's house for Thanksgiving in 1996. Knowing that I had no place to go, pretty much. My folks were down in New Jersey. I couldn't get down there because I was working that night. It was you and your lovely wife, Rece Davis.
My wife, Lee, who made some southern dishes and turkey, and we introduced
that was new for me.
Rich some of this stuff.
So you were already married, Rece, back
Yeah,
then.
I was.
Oh,
yeah. I'd gotten married while I was still working in Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
So, which, I tell you, you want to test true love? Although I loved my time in Flint. About 6 weeks before our wedding, I took a job in Flint, Michigan. And she's like, I'm not sure this is the right decision here.
Right.
But fortunately, it's worked out for us.
Well, 10 days before I got married to Susie, ESPN and I parted ways.
That was
something.
Was it that quickly?
Rece,
I didn't know that.
Rece, let's put it this way. I got married on June 7th, 2003. I got a letter faxed to me. This will give you an idea. Faxed to me from ESPN saying, we're done, 2 days before it was all over. And before I could even figure anything that was out, somebody from USA Today called up to ask me my comment about, quote unquote, not getting renewed when I thought we had 48 more hours to just negotiate. So
this is a new story to me. I mean, as long as we've been friends, I never knew this story.
Let's put it this way. There was an executive table at my wedding with some empty seats. 10 days later. Yeah, man. It was interesting. Interesting. I didn't mean to Trump. I mean,
no. That's
the. We both had some interesting stories to tell surrounding our wedding with careers. And Susie was living out in Los Angeles as a broadcaster. She came back to New York because we were going to live together, and we wound up being in Los Angeles together. Again, months later with the NFL Network, and and that's why I'm being very honest. I'm very excited to be on with you and Trey on Thursday. Because, I did an appearance on Mike and Mike, I think, on ESPN2 at a Super Bowl. I just appeared in a spot, and it just was simulcast there. And when Stewart passed, Scott Van Pelt had me on via remote.
I remember seeing
on
that.
Sports Center, which I was touched by, that he would reach out to me, and ESPN would want me part of the remembrance of such a special guy.
Yeah.
And we both have great stories of just hanging out with Stu. And because you I came a year after, and you were, I'm sure, part of the Deuce era with Stu.
That's what I was hired to do, was to be on that show with Stuart and Susie, and our kids are close to the same age. In fact, our daughters graduated high school together.
Same high school?
Same high school, yeah. Both went to Miss Porter's school in Farmington and graduated together, part of the same class. So, we've maintained friendship with Kim over the years, too. And, Stuart was a great friend and tremendous talent. So
yeah, of course.
And you guys had unbelievable chemistry on the air.
Well,
too.
before he and I would just open up our schedule, they would just put the schedules into the computer, Chris, back in the day, and it would happen at any time during the
fate hung in the balance.
Really, yeah, seriously, like you're trying to figure out what your life is for February, and it's like January 10th, and there's no schedule out, and we would always look at each other and go, is the schedule out yet? Like, when the hell are you going to get the schedule out? And so before, and you would just open it up, and Stuart and I just started realizing, why are we doing the show together more often than not? Like, we're fine with it, but like, are we a team now? Because if we're a team, we want to be announced as a team, like
right,
Dan and Keith were a team, right? And if you weren't part of a team, you were like looking at each other, wondering like, how can I get part of a team? Rece Davis,
me, right?
Right? I mean, like, I'm kind of describing our experience.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, and you always wondered when you would open up that schedule every month, if depending on the shows you got, even though the executives would deny, and I hope I don't get in trouble saying this, but probably different guys anyway, they would tell you, it doesn't mean anything. And you absolutely knew it meant something. Yeah,
of course
it
did.
Something,
I know. But before that, you and I did a ton of sports centers together when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
You and I would do a ton of them. Late night, you and I spent many 3 a.m.s waiting for some Colorado Rocky reliever to get a strike over the plate in 14th inning, right? We're like
the great producer Rob Gazzaro, who used to always we would have to wait because the show would re-air 18 times, right? So you'd have to wait till the final game was over.
Right.
And you would hear Robbie G get in your ear sometime and go, and then
he was a sire.
And then he'd go, the Dodgers have been put on this earth to screw me, right? Be an extra innings, something.
But also, Stu and I would definitely go off script a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob Gazzaro, Rob G, would be producing all of these. And so we would go off script, and we would just blow the timing of the show totally out of the water. I was mindful of it. Stuart, I think, was mindful of it, but didn't care about blowing past these stop signs. He was just doing his thing, and as he would say, doing it well, right? And so I knew we were heavy, as they say in the business. Our rundown was being blown up. And we'd get to the commercial break, and we'd wait to hear our instructions for the next segment about what would live or die, as the phrase is, and the rundown from Rob, and then he'd get in our ears, and the first thing I'd hear is, but he wouldn't say that we're killing him either, like the Dodgers, but I knew that we were. Oh, man, Rece, I'm so glad we had the same experience while we were living it at the same time. And at any rate, the reason why I bring it all full circle is that I have not been on ESPN since I walked off the set on that Sports Center that night that I had no idea was my last.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally did not know the night I walked off my last Sports Center that I'm leaving, and that everything about my identity to this point, where I met Susie, I met my wife, our 3 children are ESPN babies, essentially because of that. It means a lot to me to be back. And with you, who I've known for a long time, and Trey, Hal 3 Sticks, Trey Wingo, it's going to be great. Like, it really does mean a lot to me that in the partnership that the NFL has created for the draft with you on ABC and Trey on ESPN and me on the NFL Network, that we do have a spot for us to chit chat like that.
I'm really looking forward to it, Rich. And I think it's appropriate. I feel very sorry for the producer of the show and for Sam. I think Sam Ponder's going to be with us.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, I think she's going to be with us.
Okay.
And if so feel sorry for her. She had no shot of getting the mic back. But
4 hosts on a set.
Although.
Yes.
Although I think that you might get some really intelligent television with 4 hosts on the set.
I think so.
All of a sudden,
I hope so. I know. Because we are the most crucial part of a broadcast.
That's what I said.
Without us, it falls apart.
Well, I'm sure you do the same thing. I tell my producer on game days, Rodney Perez, with a live production, things can go wrong.
Right.
And I'll always tell him, I say, Hot Rod, you get in trouble, brother, put that camera on me and we good. You know what I'm saying? I said, I'll get it straight again. So.
Well, my story in regards to that, Rece Davis here on the Rich Eisen Show, is I tell all analysts on the NFL Network, and we have a ton of athletes who just come off the field and before their careers are over want to kick the tires on the paparazzi, want to kick the tires on their career, cut their teeth in their bye week or what have you, or in the off season. Or step off the field and they're hired and they're suddenly an analyst. I tell them there's always a safe word when you're in trouble and you're on live TV. The safe words are back to you, Rich.
I like that one. I may steal that one, too.
Back to you, Rich. So, perfect example. We're at St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale for the Pro Bowl. I think, this is now a 10-year-old story because it was the Super Bowl with the Saints and the Colts, where the Pro Bowl was no longer annually in Hawaii. They were going to have it on the mainland whenever they could. So they had the Pro Bowl before that Super Bowl, and we're at St. Thomas Aquinas High School for the practices, and we're live on the NFL Network. And Maurice Jones-Drew, who was playing at the time, was our correspondent for the NFC practice because he was playing in the AFC. So when he wasn't practicing, he was a correspondent for us doing the interviews for the NFC. So I told him the safe word before we go. It's me. I think it was Marshall and Dion on the set, and Maurice we send out into the field, and we're live listening to his interview with Frank Gore, Mr. U, back in South Florida. It's his time. He's on the 49ers. He's interviewing him, and they're on live TV. And he asks him, like, what are you doing here back in Miami? This has got to be good for you back here in South Florida. And he starts talking about hanging out with his friends, and he invites him to go hang out with him at the Script Club. He pronounces it that way, Script Club. And me, Dion, and Marshall start screaming, back to you, Rich! Say back to you, Rich! Back to you, Rich. So you should take that. Back to you, Rich. And that's another thing that we're kind of going back and forth here about the past and the present that I'm thrilled to be able to say this too. Like where you say you raised your hand back when we were working together and you're like, hey, why couldn't you be on a team? Why couldn't you get that opportunity? As I would think frequently, I wanted that chair when Keith left it for Dan. Kenny got it. And it was fine with me and Stuart will always be upset with me. Like, why do you want to go do that show? We're a team.
Yeah.
Whereas if he got that chair, he would have taken that chair himself. Like that's the way that it was, the dynamic. We liked each other, we respected each other, but it was a little competitive. To see you in the position that you're in right now and getting the Emmy noms, and I hope you win this year. It's so great. You totally deserve it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Totally deserve it. And it's so difficult, I'll say one last thing, to be the guy after the guy. Fowler hosting College Game Day, stupendous. And the show has not skipped a beat. And it's gotten more popular, you could even make the case of right now.
Well, thank you. I mean, Chris is an unbelievable host.
He's an all-timer.
As you know, and he helped build the foundation and make Game Day what it is in terms of being part of the landscape of college football. It's a little bit of a unique show, I think, because it's not just a pregame show. It's part of the experience of the college football Saturday. And Chris had, a ton to do with that. And, he and I spent a good bit of time talking. We don't know each other that well, but we spent a lot of time talking some of the meetings and so forth before then. But I've been very grateful for the way everybody, you've used the word team. They've accepted me as part of the team because the competitive spirit was there with the guys who were on Game Day previously and the guys that I had in the studio over the years, with Mark and Lou and before that Trev Alberts. So, there was some competition there, much like you described with you and Stuart. And so for them to accept me has been great. And, I didn't find that SportsCenter team like you guys did, but I had that I have my basketball guys. I mean, I've been on TV with Billis for 20 years.
He is amazing.
There could be no better teammate in the world than
Does
that
he
guy.
still print like a typewriter? Like
Yes.
his handwriting is like, I told him when we work together, there should be a Billis font.
Yeah. Billis,
I can't believe he still does that.
Billis and Jesse Palmer, tiny, precise,
No kidding.
Unbelievable printing and font. Yeah,
I would never
really
guess
something.
that about Jesse.
Jesse Palmer's notebook on football. I mean, because of all of the varied interests and varied things that he does.
Right.
That guy's so unbelievably prepared. When I did Thursday night games with him,
Right.
he would carry a notebook around with him of handwritten notes about everything. He's very meticulous in his preparation.
Is that Rece Davis here? A few minutes left with Rece on the Rich Eisen show. So is the ABC coverage going to essentially be a college game day, but instead of it being on campus, you're in Broadway, and instead of it being talking about a college game, you're talking about an NFL draft? Is that essentially what you're doing?
Yeah, I think that's the feel of it, Rich. It is going to be player driven, and what I mean by that is that we probably, not that we'll ignore this, but we won't spend a lot of time talking salary cap or how a guy might fit in a team, what moves they might make as a result of taking this guy. We'll be talking more about the player. What's the team getting? Personal background stories, anecdotes that we have from having covered most of these guys
are all big men on campus.
Yeah,
man.
especially the guys who will be the first couple of nights. We know them all, and we'll share those types of anecdotes. There'll be plenty of football, hardcore stuff, but it won't be driven so much by why the Seahawks would part ways with Frank Clark. What. If they haven't done something by then, what the Cardinals might do with Josh Rosen. Obviously, that will come up organically, but it'll be more about the players themselves.
Yeah. And is Corso going to put on the headgear of each team on the clock, like the Jets hat on when the Jets are on the clock, or what is he going to do?
I'm guessing that at the game day show, because we have a game day pre-show as well that'll be on ESPN.
Right.
At the end last year, he put on the Mel Kiper head. But we'll see if we can get him to be. Maybe he'll be a little braver this year and actually make the pick.
The NFL will give you 32 different headgear.
That would be great.
I think
we just do it before every pick.
Yeah, just before the Jets are on the clock. Just put the Jet on the head.
We got the Bear making gambling picks.
The Bear will be part of the broadcast.
I've told you this when you were kind enough to try and get my kids down on the field, and it was just such a cluster at the Rose Bowl. Shocker! It was 100,000 people. And we got stuck behind the Oklahoma band, which was amazing.
That was a great game.
Oklahoma, Georgia
that was such an amazing game.
Yeah,
and by the way, half that team is in the NFL.
Yeah, that's right.
And they balled out last year, and they're going to Sony Michel, for crying out loud.
I know.
Could have been the Super Bowl MVP, right? But at any rate, the fact Chris Felica, the Bear, was in the Sports Center and ESPN. I guess research pen for years. And so Susie and I know him for years when he was Felix, from just talking about the U all the time because he loves the team. And to see him on TV, and my kids love the Bear. They love when Felica's got that camera and right in his face, like he's at an ATM machine, and it's like it's boom, like right there in front of him. They can't get enough of him. He's a star.
He's a star.
He is a star, and his rapport with Kirk, who, by the way, with Herb Street, who will be a huge part of this, that guy has such unbelievable feel for television. And when he kind of gets
You're talking about Felica?
No, I'm talking about Herb Street.
Okay, all right, right.
Herb Street has unbelievable feel for television and knows exactly when to wind the Bear up, and he's so good at it. And he'll look at me sometimes and he'll start nodding his head like that and kind of pointing. I'm like, okay, he's ready to wind the Bear up on something. So, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun Thursday night.
I'm looking forward to Thursday from everything. It's going to be a big night. Real quick, Kyler Murray, who is he? I mean, what can you tell me about him? Knowing him, there's been such a question mark, certainly from the NFL evaluators, about who he is.
I think the best story I can give you, Rich, is he's obviously. He's not the outgoing, dynamic, charismatic guy that Baker Mayfield was. And I make that comparison, obviously, with the Heisman, same school, first pick, potentially, and all of that stuff. But he is fiercely competitive. He plays with, probably because of his size, he almost lives with a chip on his shoulder. I was at an event with him. I don't want to say which one because I don't want to embarrass the people involved. And his name was mispronounced. And this was after he won the Heisman. And I sort of leaned up to him and said, just, it's okay, let it go. But you could see him bristle. And this was not in a bad, disrespectful way. It was just sort of, he has worked hard for the recognition he has gotten, and he wants to be appreciated for that way. So he doesn't let things like that go. I think it serves him well in terms of being a quarterback and a leader. And, I think there are probably still a lot of people would tell you there are some things that he could still work on in terms of getting guys to gravitate to him, making sure he's the first one in, as quarterbacks need to be, and all of that kind of thing. It got him in a little, mini hot water for not starting a game, being a little late a couple of times, things like that. But they're minor. I think he's a good young man. He's an engaging guy when you talk to him. He's been well trained. He's undersized. Everybody knows that, but he is an uncanny athlete, and I think he's worth the shot. I'm not going to sit here and tell you for sure that I'm as convinced as I was about Baker, but I do think if I had to pick one way or the other, I think he'll be successful.
Well, I didn't know that story about his name being mispronounced, and that means Dwayne Haskins was the only Heisman finalist whose name was not botched throughout the entire month of December and January. I mean, my gosh. Can we get to his last name right as you're announcing him as a potential Heisman Trophy winner? At any rate, Rece, it's great to see you. I believe, since obviously Berman did all the drafts, and Trey nor I, as other hosts of the NFL draft, have ever done an NBA draft, you're probably the first who's going to host an NFL and NBA draft in the same year.
Is probably true.
So
it's probably true.
Congrats on that
Thank
honor
you very
as
much.
well.
That's fun.
Great to see you, brother.
Great to see you too. Thanks for having me. Likewise.
You got it.
Too.
Thank you.
All right.
That's Rece Davis. Check him out on ABC when the picks start dropping right here in Nashville.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.